Now, that deuxième we promised you earlier. This is the longest piece on the program. It's a cycle of 8 songs for 2 to 3 voices and viola that I wrote for Helene, Daniel Hyman, and me on our trip to Seattle last summer. We premiered this work live at our Pagan Fletcher Restoration concert this past July 30th, but there were some technical difficulties. So 2 days later, the 3 of us decided to re-record the whole thing here at Court Street Music. And now we'd like to share the results with you. First though, Dan, would you say a word about the poet, please?
I would be glad to.
Put your video on. You have to start your video.
I'll have to hold on.
I have to invite you to do it. Maybe we do.
Yeah, you can probably allow him.
I just did.
Good.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay. Good.
Hi. The list of consultants in poetry to the Library of Congress is quite impressive and extensive. Since the mid-'80s, it has been known as Poet Laureate. The 14th honoree as poetic consultant was Louis Untermeyer, an American poet of German Jewish ancestry. He was an original panelist, as you may or may not know, on the television show What's My Line in 1950, but he was booted off by a frightened sponsor when war veterans threatened to picket the studio because of his associations with leftist writers such as Lillian Hellman, Dashiell Hammett, and Arthur Miller. That expulsion sent him into a year-long depression, during which point he neither left his house nor answered the phone. He was best known as an editor and translator, especially of Heinrich Heine and other wonderful German poets. Leonard's song cycle here is based upon a selection Leonard made from Untermeyer's 28 poems in the collection called Labyrinth of Love, which was inspired by a turn-of-the-century German collection by Otto Birnbaum, Der Irrgarten der Liebe, which means the same thing, which is a bestseller, went through 86 editions and inspired settings by Richard Strauss and other composers. As far as we know, this Untermeyer reflection has never been set before, but it has a special resonance for us. Inspired by a reading of Birnbaum by the great critic H.L. Mencken and lover of German culture, it was written in 1965, the year that Untermeyer turned 80, during the final and most happy of his 5 marriages, which lasted from 1948 until his death in 1977. The poetry shines light on loving relationships, from contemporary times back to Adam and Eve, and ends with the angel Gabriel extolling lovers' boldness with the encouraging message, don't wait, carpe diem, seize the day. People might imagine that this is the most challenging viola piece I've ever been asked to perform, but I don't feel that I'm any more challenged than in the Hindemith solo sonatas or the Schubert arpeggione. What I think is challenged are the limits of the instrument itself. I play near the bridge. I play with the wood of the bow. I play harmonics that nobody else writes. And sometimes I play notes like the very final note of the piece, which are both plucked and bowed at the same time. And I even get to sing.
Right. So the titles of the poems are Look Up, Lovers, Heart to Heart, Love is a Smith, Beyond Passion, There Are Times, The Door, and Paradise. All are subtitled.